Today on The Sporting Chef, I'm gonna cook a duck. And while I'm cooking my duck, I've also got the Hank Shaw breakdown. I've got a gal who's gonna take the bones out of a quail, duck in a truck. We're gonna light some charcoal, and then of course, there's always Buddy.
What do you get when you find the best fish and game chefs? Cookbook authors, award winners, fishmongers, outdoor experts, and put them on the fastest half hour on outdoor television. Hosted by one of America's best known wild game chefs, Scott Leysath, The Sporting Chef. Brought to you by Camp Chef, the way to cook outdoors.
You know, for years, I've talked to an awful lot of people that say they love to hunt duck, but they're not that crazy about eating it. Well, I gotta tell you, if you don't like the taste of duck, don't blame the duck. My number one rule with duck, it goes into a brine. I don't cook a duck or a goose without first brining it. Brining it is a really simple solution that leaches out the blood and replaces it with brine. I use the High Mountain Game Bird and Poultry brine. It's foolproof. You can actually use it on your Thanksgiving turkey, any kind of waterfowl, any kind of upland game. You can also make your own brines with just salt water, a little brown sugar. I don't care what you do. I want you to brine your ducks and geese. They'll taste different. Now, I also have somebody else on the Sporting Chef team, John McGannon, who swears by dry aging. Check out wildeats.com. The whole point of either dry aging or brining is to get the blood out, dry it out, and I've got a guy, Hank Shaw, who's a James Beard award-winning chef. He's bringing a little bit more technical expertise to the Sporting Chef show, and he's going to show you first off how he breaks down a duck. Hank does it the long way.
Actually, Scott, there is more than one way to break down a duck. I do things just a little bit differently because I like to use every piece of the duck that we get. First, I take off the legs. Make a cut, just like that. And then I turn the bird. Cut down, and you spread that out, and you come around and just cut down. And what you want to do is just pop this like that, and then just cut right around the leg and cut underneath it just like that. So I like to keep the wings, so you take the knife right along that saber bone and you cut just along it, and that opens up the wing right where you want it, like that. So I cut the breasts off the duck a little bit differently from most other people because I like to keep it in one piece, and I like to keep as much of the skin and fat on as possible. And here's how you do it. I start with this fat pad right on the side of the duck. So gentle strokes. You bring the knife in, and you want the point of the knife to be touching the keel bone. You're going to find that wishbone up in the front, just cut in right towards it, and just slide the knife right alongside it. When you open it up, you find the duck tender. Now I leave this on for now. Close it up and do the other side. Now, to take the whole breast off, you just pick it up. And the way you take it off is just by running the knife along the keel bone. Perfect. And here, you've got two pretty halves of a pintail breast. Cut it in half, and there you have it. Two perfect duck breasts, ready for the frying pan. Well, Scott, that's how I break down a duck. Works for me. Why don't you give it a try?
Well, you know, Hank, I would do it your way, but I've got a few other things I need to get done today. Like take this duck out of the brine. And ideally, you want to brine your ducks and geese for about minimum of 6 hours. I like to do it overnight. The real success story is when you open up that garage refrigerator and you have this big pool of bloody water. Go ahead and pour the water out. It's not going to do you any good. You don't want to reuse your brine. And after you've done that, just give it a pat dry. I like to work starting at the breast and just cut the meat right off. I've found that although you can get some flavor with cooking it on the bone, this is going to cook a little faster. And I'm going to do it in my Camp Chef pellet grill and smoker. So there's part A, part B coming up. Two sides. High Mountain Cajun Cowboy seasoning. High Mountain has a great line of seasoning, from spicy to not so spicy to a little bit smoky. I don't need to add smoke flavor to this one because I'm going to get plenty of smoke flavor from my pellet grill and smoker. Season both sides. We're just getting started on the sporting chef. A very talented and pretty lady shows you how to debone a quail. Buddy says hey from the Redneck Riviera. And the duck breasts are doing their thing in the pellet grill and smoker. So stick around. Today I'm cooking duck with a little help from my friends. And again, if you don't like the taste of duck, if you think it's gamey, muttony, livery, then you're doing something wrong. My duck has been brined. It's been seasoned with some High Mountain seasoning. My pellet grill and smoker is ready to go. So now the duck into the smoker. I'm going to go skin side down, because I like my skin crispy, not rubbery. The heat's already there. I've got about 350 degrees here, 340, 350. It's going to cool down as I open the lid, so I'm going to close the lid. Now these pellet grill and smokers are great for cooking any kind of upland game and waterfowl. As it turns out, my good friend Stacy Harris, who is a cookbook author, a very talented home chef, and a mother of 7 great kids, is going to show you how to debone some cute little quail.
Hi, I'm Stacy. Today, my kids and my husband just got back from a quail hunt, and tonight we are going to be having a quail party. So I'm going to teach you today how to debone or partially debone a quail. First thing that you will do is to cut the neck bone off. Then the best thing to do is when your family gets a lot of quail is just to do them over and over and over again. You're going to go right in between the wing and the wishbone right here, and you're going to try to feel for both of those so that you can snip right in between the two of those to get a good clean cut. You're going to do the same thing on the other side. Cut down the backbone after that. And this right here is the backbone, just straight down. You're going to hear sounds of ribs being cut into. Cut it all the way through to the very end. You're going to do the same thing with the other side, straight down the backbone. It's kind of fun after you do it a while. Okay. Then you're going to go back up to where the collarbone is, and you're going to massage in between the collarbone and the meat, the breast meat. You're going to go right through here, and you're going to just feel with your hands. And sometimes, to me, it's best not to even look at it, because I feel like I do a lot better just feeling around with my hands in between the bones. You're going to get a good clean sweep, and you're going to just pull that meat as best you can away from that bone. I got all of it but the collarbone, so I'm going to come back up here. I'm going to pull this collarbone out. Okay, feel for any bones, and there's none, and I'm thankful. There you have your beautiful deboned, partially deboned quail.
Thanks, Stacy. The deboning of the quail is, it takes a little bit of effort and takes some time, but it really is worth it if you're going to try and get that rib cage out. It makes it a lot easier to eat. I'm going to check the duck in the pellet grill and smoker and give it a flip. You can tell I've got some juices coming up from it now. What little blood there is in there, which is very little because it was brined, is starting to come up. You don't want to play with it too much. If you just flip it once, the goal here is to go rare to medium rare. If you go beyond rare to medium rare, you're going to start getting those livery, gamey flavors. I'm going to start a sauce. This is going to be a balsamic berry sauce. This is my go-to sauce. If I want to convince people that duck actually tastes good, I've got a hot cast iron skillet with some balsamic vinegar, And let me just shut that down for a second so I don't burn the sauce. Its balsamic vinegar is sour. Berry preserves is sweet. I'll finish it with a little bit of berries, throw some garlic, butter, that kind of thing in there. Now, if you don't have a Camp Chef pellet grill and smoker, let's say you use charcoal. I've got the man, Cee Dub. The legendary Cee Dub is going to show you the easy way to light your charcoal.
Okay, most of us Dutch oven cooks use a charcoal lighter basket to start charcoal when we're cooking with our Dutch ovens. Now these charcoal lighter baskets are designed to put newspaper here on the bottom, fill it up with charcoal, light the newspaper, and that takes about 20-25 minutes with this big charcoal lighter basket. The problem with that is when you lift this up, you've got that fly ash flying around. So I'm going to show you how I light my charcoal. We're going to take and fill our lighter basket up. And we're going to set it on the burner of our stove here. I've got this propane burner on about medium heat, and that's going to light our charcoal in about half the time as if we were using the newspaper method. A word of caution though, if you're using this method, do not wait till your briquettes on top turn gray or the bottom ones have all burned out. When we see an orange wispy flame coming up through here, everything will be ready to go, and that's how I light my charcoal when I'm Dutch oven cooking.
Today I'm cooking duck on the Sporting Chef with a little help from my friends. My duck is ready. I know it's ready because I can tell by feeling it. I know what medium rare feels like. The worst thing that could happen if you take it off a little bit early is you have to put it back on. The worst thing that could happen if you overcook it is it's not going to taste very good. So right here, it's giving just enough. After this rests for a few minutes, it'll give the juices a chance to redistribute, and it'll be nice, rare to medium rare, I think. And now I have a very special friend of mine, Freeman, who is, among other things, the chef for a very well-known stock car racing organization. She also has a food truck in Lodi, California, and she's going to show me how she cooks her duck.
Hi Scott, I'm down here and I have some duck in front of me and I love the way you do your duck. So I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to start this. I have a bowl. I'm going to put in a little bit of California extra virgin olive oil, grown locally here in Northern California. And then I have some brown sugar, just about 2 tablespoons. I also have some teriyaki sauce I'm going to put in there. I have some shallots. We're going to put some fresh ginger in the bowl. Fresh Italian parsley, some sage. Some people like this a little sweeter. You can add more brown sugar if you prefer. I like it a little more savory. I have some crushed red pepper flakes. I'm going to put that in there. And then we have some salt and some pepper. Last but not least, some Jack Daniels. If people prefer to use the recipe without the alcohol, you could put some type of fruit juice into it. And it doesn't have to marinate overnight. If you prefer to marinate it overnight, the flavor will be more intense throughout the meat. My preference is about 4 to 6 hours in the refrigerator. So you'd want to put the olive oil in after the pan has gotten warm so that when you put the meat into the pan, you get a nice sizzle, a nice sear, and it doesn't start to steam the meat. I'm going to put it fat side down. See, it's just starting to smoke, so it's perfect. Get a nice sizzle. You don't want to crowd your pan. If you crowd the pan, too much liquid will come out or moisture will come out of the duck and you'll start to steam the meat as well. So you do want a pretty intense heat as you start this. I'm also going to put just a little bit more fresh ground pepper and kosher salt. I do ground my pepper freshly before all my ingredients. That's also kind of important. They lose their flavor in the containers while they sit on the shelf. Now I don't want to overcook the duck, but I do want to cook it a little bit longer with the skin side down. I want to render the fat just slightly so it gets nice and crispy. And these ducks we're cooking today are 2 very nice fat mallard duck breasts with the wing on. So I'm going to go ahead and give it a flip now. That's caramelization. There's a lot of brown sugar in the marinade, so it's going to get it nice and brown, a nice golden color. That's a lot of the sugars plus the fat rendering. This is cooking nicely. We're getting a nice crust, a nice searing on both sides. So we have the duck breast that's been resting so that juices will distribute evenly through the meat and not go all over the board when we start to cut it. So I have some specialty lettuces, some small baby greens here. I'm just going to rest one of the breasts there, and then the other breast I'm going to cut. I use the skin side, the nice crispy rendered fat side, as our presentation side. So this is the side you want to see. I like to slice it somewhat thin, and hopefully you can see that. It's a nice medium rare. You can cook the fat side down a little bit longer if you choose. Oh, it looks and smells wonderful. I wish you folks could smell this. And then what I'll do is slide my knife underneath so it gives a nice little presentation. I have a homemade vinaigrette, a balsamic vinaigrette. I'm just going to drizzle all over this. And that, Scott, that is how we do duck in a truck.
Hey Lisa, thanks. That's a great recipe. And doing it in a tight place like a food truck, I know would be a challenge for most people, but not for you. Here's something that I find all the time. People don't know how to properly package their ducks before they put them in the refrigerator or the freezer, especially the freezer. Now, butchers are usually pretty good at wrapping their ducks in these butcher wrap packages. You'll notice that nowhere on here does it say what's in this package or what year it was done, what month it was done, so you don't know how old this duck is. This is what I call an unidentified frozen object. The paper wrap is notorious for freezer burn too. The other option is the loose bag. You think you've squeezed all the air out of it and you really haven't. There's air space in here. Air is the enemy. Air is where we get freezer burn. And if you do happen to get some freezer burn on the outside of your duck or any other piece of meat, you can cut it away, but really why waste that meat? Then of course there's freezing it in water. These are duck breasts frozen in water here. Takes up a lot of space. My favorite way is with a Food Saver vacuum packaging bag. Very, very simple. It'll make it last so much longer than if you don't. Don't forget to take a good permanent marker, label and date it. It's duck. You put the month and the year. I like to eat them within about 6 months to a year, but in these bags they're good for a couple, 2-3 years. Now it's a little chilly here where we're cooking duck today, but I'm gonna go to where it's a little bit warmer, and I want you to meet a very special friend. Yes, his name's Buddy.
This is Buddy Topher, down here on Laguna Madre, Corpus Christi, Texas, on Padre Island. We're on the Redneck Riviera, and I'm going to show you a hybridized dish that I came up with. Everybody's eating ceviche, the rest of you have eaten shrimp cocktail. Well, I'll combine the two. So what we got here is a regular ceviche recipe. It's got red bell peppers, onions, serranos, regular onions, celery, avocados, lemon, lime. We took the belly meat and rib meat off of some corvina that we caught down in Mazatlan, Mexico. To that, we're going to go and mix some boiled shrimp. I didn't cook the shrimp in the acid because I wanted that boiled shrimp flavor from our regular crab and crawfish boil. Mix that up. Put a little bit of that in this glass. I'm going to add a little bit of this tomato juice to make it more of a shrimp cocktail. So whenever you feel like you need to go down to the islands, just get out your shades, mix you up a batch of this, get a margarita, and enjoy yourself. Be just like you were here with me. Y'all come back now, you hear?
Here on The Sporting Chef today, we did a bunch of stuff, including my easy way to cook a duck. Now, I have some balsamic berry sauce here, which is, you start with a whole bunch of balsamic vinegar, and you can use the cheap stuff. You don't need to use the good balsamic vinegar. Reduce it down, add some fresh rosemary, some fresh garlic, finish it with a little bit of butter, and I actually put in some of my favorite, the High Mountain Italian herb seasoning. This is exceptional stuff. No salt, just flavor. And I would have added some of my favorite Michael David Petite wine, but as it turns out, we drank it instead. Or I would have put some of that great wine in there. Let me make sure that I haven't overcooked my duck. It's been sitting here for a little while. Let's take a look inside. That color is correct. This looks like it might be undercooked to some of you folks, but this is a perfect color. That red is good. I like mine actually just a little bit purple, but red is okay too. If your duck is gray, that means the chances are it's very, very much overcooked. That looks beautiful right there. Let me put some fresh raspberries into my sauce. And then I'm going to drizzle that right on top of the duck. This is a great dish to convince people that say they don't like duck that duck actually tastes good. It should taste more neutral. It shouldn't taste gamey or livery. It's an easy deal. And I'd like to thank my guests today, Lisa Freeman, Hank Shaw, Cee Dub, Stacy Harris, and of course, Buddy T. We'll see you next time on Sporting Chef, but in the meantime, you want to check out sportingchef.com for recipes from the show, how to find out more about our Sporting Chef pros, maybe buy their cookbooks. We'll see you next time.